Welcome back to another Film Geek movie review. Today, after the old day job, I am off to check out the new horror film, Together. Together is written and directed by Michael Shanks, and it's starring Alison Brie and Dave Franco. It tells the story of a couple who have kind of hit a crossroads in their relationship. They're both kind of moving in different directions, and their relationship is starting to suffer. And to top everything off, somehow or another, some strange, unnatural force is causing them to come together. And what I mean by come together is they're literally forming into something. That's all I know from the trailer. There's a lot of scenes of these two just kind of coming together. It looks pretty wild, to be perfectly honest. Now, I do understand that there's little controversy that is attached to this film right now. It is currently got a lawsuit against it for copyright infringement. Another film by the name of Better Half from 2023 has said that it is a plagiaristic film and they're being sued. Now, I have not seen the film Better Half. I don't know really a whole lot about it, to be perfectly honest. So I'm not going to go into a whole lot about the controversy, the court case. I am not a lawyer. I know very little about copyright laws and plagiarism and things of that sort. The most I know about copyright laws is what I am able to get away with on Facebook. So I'm not going to go into this controversy anymore. I am not going to give my opinions. I haven't even seen this other movie that we're talking about, so I have no way to compare the two of them, period. So that's all I have to say about that, okay? We're not going to bring it up for the rest of the review. But there is one thing, and that is, it is time for me to get out the door, because first off, I got to get to the old day job, and then I'm off to check out Together. Well, that was a hell of a ride. Okay, so let's get this party started, shall we? Now, normally I do negatives and positives, but this time around I really don't have anything negative to say, but I will give you this. What's it called? Trigger warning. Alright, this film dives into codependency in relationships, something hardcore. Now, it's not something that's very preachy and all, but it is something that if you're a person who has been in a very codependent relationship, and maybe it's something that you're kind of freshly getting out of, this might not necessarily be a good cup of tea for you. You might want to give yourself a little bit of time to heal from getting out of a relationship like that before you go see a movie like this, because believe me folks, they really push the theme of codependency in a relationship. Not necessarily a toxic relationship, but a very dependent on each other, and each of our characters have a very different dependency that they need from this relationship in this couple. So I thought it was really cool that it does dive into different types of codependency and what each person, I guess, kind of gets from each other in this film. So just a little bit of a warning that if this is something that's very fresh in your mind and it's really new, you might have a difficult time getting through this movie, but it's not too awful bad. Let me put it to you that way, because the film itself does do a really good job of also keeping a very lightheartedness to some of it. So it does kind of break things up a little bit. So when everything's kind of going on and it's really getting pretty heavy and all, the film does a really good job of putting in a little bit of comedy, kind of lighten it up a little bit so the movie doesn't get too awful heavy, but it also delivers its message in a very coherent and straightforward manner. Now, let's go ahead and get into those positives. The first thing I want to talk about is just the cinematography in this film. I really loved the way this movie was shot. There were so many amazingly good shots in this film. They also used the environment to its fullest. This film is filmed in a location where there's a large wooded area around the house that also, of course, gives our two characters a bit of isolation from the rest of the world, which also really works with the dread in this film. But speaking of that cinematography and the environment, I absolutely love the fact that when they were in the woods, that they were really taking in all of that beautiful scenery that was around them and all of the color that was popping and all. And I love it when a horror film dives into a very bright and colorful color palette. Not that it was overly saturated with color, it was very natural environment, but it was nice that everything really kind of takes place in the sunlight, so you get to see really everything that's going on. So the cinematography was outstanding. Our two actors do excellent jobs in this film. Dave Franco and Alison Brie together have amazing chemistry. You can really feel that these two, at least the characters, have been in a very long-term relationship, and both of them are getting different things out of this relationship too, and both of these people are at very different points in their lives and different points within this relationship. And it does a great job of showing different types of codependency in these two people. I also like the fact that the film doesn't necessarily make one member of this couple the good guy and the bad guy. No one in this couple is really making things worse. It's just the fact that they're not really on the same page at this moment. And to be perfectly honest, just a nice, good conversation, being open with your emotions and what's going on, probably would be a good, healthy thing to do in a relationship such as this. But here I am talking about emotional maturity, and there's not really something that's found in this film, but there is some also outstanding special effects. The special effects in this film, while they were kind of CGI-ish, they look great. They did an excellent job of utilizing the effects, utilizing it to a point where it doesn't look goofy and silly and cartoony. It still looks very natural, like things are supposed to be kind of coming together like this and all in the scenes. And I'm not giving you a spoiler because god damn, the name of the movie is Come Together. I mean, obviously at some part things like that are going to happen, and in those moments the special effects are outstanding. I really enjoyed the story to this film. I thought it had a great flow to it. The movie clocks in at about an hour and 40 some minutes, and it flows along perfectly fine. It does kind of have a slow burn vibe to it because it does have a lot of story, a lot of development. We really have to spend time with our characters and to really get to know them, to really get the emotional impact of what's going on. Both of our main characters in this film are very likable and very relatable types of characters. You can see yourself within these characters, and you can also relate to the problems that they're having within their relationship. Everything seems to be very normal, relatable type of stuff when it comes to that. All in all, guys, I would have to say that this was an extremely solid film. It does a great job of blending in a little bit of levity, a little bit of comedy to lighten the mood a little bit. It has an excellent story. At its core, a great emotional impact, and also very likable characters. These are a lot of things that you just don't get to find a whole lot in a horror movie such as this, a more allegorical, metaphorical kind of film. Normally, you don't get this kind of a feeling when you leave. Not that I was like, oh my gosh, I feel great about things. I just walked away from this film thinking about things, putting together little pieces of maybe past relationships that I had been in where maybe there was a little bit of codependency going on. So I thought the film did an excellent job of delivering its message, not sounding preachy and not beating your head to death with what it's trying to say. If you are not necessarily a fan of horror because you're not a big fan of gore, and I know you've probably heard that this film is a body horror, and you see in the previews and all what looks like is something that's going to be downright disgustingly gory. This movie really doesn't go to the levels of gore that I honestly was expecting to see from this film. I thought it kind of kept everything a little mellow in the gore category, which I also thought was a good idea. It makes it a little bit more pleasant for the normies. Let's just put it that way. Not everybody loves big buckets of blood and lots of disgusting, gory bone breaking and all. The sound design in this film is also something that is outstanding. I love the use of sound. There were so many points in this movie where just the sound sound design alone was enough to really push home that overwhelming feeling of dread that was going on. So guys, what I have to say about this movie is that if you have the opportunity to go see this movie, it is coming out in theaters July 30th. Go check this movie out because it is one hell of a film to watch up on the big screen. Just maybe don't go see this movie if you're having some issues with a significant other. Well, alright guys, that's all I have for you today. Thanks again for checking out the Film Geek. If you liked what you saw here today, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, ring that bell for notifications, and give me the old thumbs up so I know you like what you're seeing. And if there's one more thing you can do, folks, that is keep watching movies. You know I'm gonna.